Navy 2026, coming off a historic season, finished with only 2 losses, win the Army-Navy game. What can we expect this upcoming season? A lot of their roster is gone. This video will talk about that very roster, coaching staff, overall program health, and what to expect for the upcoming season for Navy. Let's take a look at recruiting. This is the first thing that requires context. Army, Navy, Air Force. These teams, they don't recruit at the same capacity as anyone really in the FBS. They're an armed force school. Most of their players are 0 stars. That's because of their commitment to military service, of course. There's also some nuance with the retention. It's not uncommon for a player to technically be a recruit for a football team, and then they just stop playing randomly their sophomore year. So their retention numbers, they're not losing kids to the portal. They're just having kids stop playing football, which does happen routinely. It just requires some context. Navy's no different. They're a bottom 3 recruiting team. They don't use the portal. A lot of kids just stop playing football. But regardless, we know what it means to play for Navy. And typically they are taking these 0 stars, 2 stars, occasional 3 stars, and turning them into actual contributors as well. So let's go right into the roster with Navy. That's going to be more important than these recruiting numbers and program health. Here's the depth chart. You see the experience in the middle, snaps the last 2 years, what star recruit a player was if they were one, and then a value score 0 to 100, 100 being your all-conference players. 50 is around average. So they're losing their starting QB. Blake Horvath is gone. Blake Horvath is gone, which means Braxton Woodson is now going to be your starting QB. This is a little bit of a tongue twister, but Woodson was actually recruited. He's 6'3", 215. Doesn't have the same arm on paper as like a Blake Horvath. When you have these triple option offenses, Blake Horvath was surprisingly good as a passer. Braxton Woodson has a 45% completion percentage, 5.4 yards per attempt. He actually does have more big-time throws and turnover-worthy plays, but the most important thing is 760 rushing yards. That's 5.2 yards per carry. His pressure to sack ratio was 30%. So when he was under pressure through his career, that has been a little bit of an issue. But when you look at him in this offense, the Drew Cronage offense that finished 29th in offensive efficiency last year, can he run it? I think the answer is yes. It's going to be your classic triple option, wing T with some spread RPOs mixed in there. The RPO stuff maybe will be a bit of an issue for Woodson at some point, but the typical running wing T triple option principle should be just fine for a player with this caliber athleticism. Behind him, you have Jackson Gutierrez. He's yet to complete a pass, but does look mobile as well. We have the quarterback room for Navy ranked 5th in this conference, and largely that's just because you're losing a longtime starter in Blake Horvath, which brings in some uncertainty to the picture. So when you go to the receiver position, they typically aren't using this. Won't spend too much time here. It should be one of the worst groups in the conference, which no surprise there. They lose Nathan Kent, who was their leader. So you have like a Josh Guerin, who was a 3-catch player. You have a Luke Hutchison, who is a 5-catch player. There's not really a lot of worthwhile production, but I'm not really sure it makes sense. They're basically just blockers on the perimeter. Tight end is a bit more important. And this position, they return their top 2 guys. Jake Norris, 5 catches. Again, they're not throwing a lot, but he's played quite a bit, and he's been an elite blocker, which fits the Navy offense very well. He's one of the better tight ends in the conference, frankly, when you just isolate blocking. Then you have Theo Elwell, also played 201 snaps, not quite as effective, 0 catches on 4 targets, but he's actually played 200 snaps. It's better than a lot of players in this offense right now, given how much production they lost. And then Jordan Collins, 115 snaps for him. That's also not bad. Caught 1 pass. He was really good on the 115 snaps as a blocker. We currently have this unit ranked 3rd in the American. It's a quality tight end room. And when you get to the offensive line, we typically talk about pass blocking and run blocking. Run blocking, obviously, far more important for Navy. They were 38th in this metric. They do lose 2 starters in Ben Purvis and Jalen Acevedo. So when you look at who's returning, it starts with their left tackle, Sean Crowley, 809 snaps, came in a little bit above average. And he was decent in the run game. 10 pressures allowed wasn't great, but he's 6'4", 293. That's a pretty good size player. Your right tackle, Malcolm Johnson, he's a bit younger and he's a bit smaller. Needs to put weight on some frame, but this happens with a lot of Navy guys. They're typically a little underdeveloped in the trenches. He's 6'6", which is great, but he's 278. Now, right on average as a run blocker, 8 pressures allowed wasn't fantastic. I'm curious to see if they change his weight throughout the summer. Is he able to put some on? This could be a slight concern, but we still have him as an above average offensive lineman where he was in the run game last year. Hoke Smith, the second, returns at right guard. Average run blocker, 5 pressures allowed. He's played nearly 1,000 snaps at this point in his career, and he's been a quality starter. He might be their best starter on the offensive line. I think that should be reserved for Cam Nichols, who's another returning starter, 6'1", 288, so a bit on the smaller side. But he was very good in the run game and an elite pass blocker as well. And when you go down to the final starting position, I would guess it's Jake Polito. He's the most experienced for that left guard spot, and he started one game against Memphis. It wasn't the best, but he's also not very experienced, and we know that time on task is very important for everyone in the system, not just the offensive line. And if he's your weak link, he's really the only one we project as a below-average starter. That's a good place to be. It also might be a case where you play like a Torrin Smith. He started 3 games last year, and he was above average when he played. So I'm not 100% sure it'll be Polito. It could be Torrin Smith. It could be someone else. This is a good offensive line. They rank 3rd overall, which is honestly the most important position group for Navy. It's more important than QB. I would argue more important than your runners. This is how the offense functions through a good offensive line. And running back, they're using a triple option, so we have them designated by position, just going 2 deep for each of these spots. You lose Brandon Chapman, you lose Eli Heidenreich, you lose Alex Texa. They lost a lot on the offense. It's not just Woodson. When you go and look at how much they lost, I mean, this unit lost over 3,000 rushing yards, which is crazy. That includes Horvath. So you look, let's start with fullback. The player who's typically lining up behind the QB should be Vic Listorti, who's 200 pounds. He has 3 career carries. Behind him, we have like a Mikey Pearson, Quinton Ezard, Aiden Woolfolk, maybe. None of them have any experience. And that's kind of the case with every single position, at least among this running back group, this slot back group. Isaiah Bryant and Charles Robinson are probably going to be your slot backs, but no experience here. Bryant has 7 carries. Robinson has 10 carries. On top of that, you have like Michael Barrow and Trey Jones with virtually no experience behind them. Trey Jones is a 3-star, which I guess is a little bit of a feather in their cap. This running back room ranks last in the conference due to inexperience. We barely have 100 snaps combined among these players. But the benefit of playing running back for Navy or slot back for Navy, when you have a good offensive line in front of you, it doesn't really matter. So I'm still pretty optimistic with the offense in general, because the best position, the most important position in your offensive line, has the most continuity. And we know Drew Kronich, the OC, is going to coach up this unit. They were 29th last year. He's been a very successful OC through his career with this option. Newberry's been a fantastic coach. We didn't mention him a lot at the beginning, but he's 26-12 in his career. And he's been with Navy even before that, where he was the DC prior. So a lot of optimism with Navy's offense, given there's so much change. And before we get to the defense, this video is brought to you by our college football summer guide. We've been hard at work trying to get this to you ever since the spring. And what this includes for just $50, projections for every single game. That's a score, a total, and a spread. That means win totals for every single team, all 138. There will also be player projections for those of you involved in best ball. That's down to the statistical level. Think passing yards, passing touchdowns, etc. Depth charts for all 138 teams, which includes our value grading score. You've seen that on the screen in this very video. You'll get written analysis for most teams and players, which updates constantly throughout the summer. And that is a real separator for us versus the competition. Whenever news breaks, that will be immediately updated. You also get Discord access, which allows you to chop it up on any team, player, anytime there's a story. A lot of like-minded people in there just like you. You can also ask any question. Those will be addressed either here or in the Discord itself. And if you'd like to support in a smaller way, please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel. That helps show YouTube that this content is actually worthwhile, and it gets us in front of new viewers in the long run, which just helps us keep doing this. You can also hype the video, leave a comment. Those are great ways to support the channel. And thank you if you've done any of that. It truly does help the channel grow. Last thing, if you or somebody you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Now, back to the video. Defense. So PJ Volker left for the NFL, their DC. Now they're promoting Eric Lewis. It's another internal promotion. Navy was 111th in defense last year. This is a unit that does need some work just year over year. They were 107th in run D. They were 55th in pass rush. And they're losing a couple guys on the defensive line. Luke Pierce graduated. Adam Klenk graduated. Julian Matum is not on the roster. We mentioned this at the beginning. Sometimes guys just stop playing football. He's not there, which leads to no experience on the edge. This defensive line really in general has one experienced player. The edge group, it's Aiden Lightcheck and Garrison Dibble, the only players that have any experience. Now, Dibble is a 3-star. They just don't have a lot of them on the roster, which needs to be noted. But you've got nothing here. Nothing. Inside, you also lose a 7th-round pick in Landon Robinson. Navy is lucky to sometimes have one player drafted. They had a few drafted in the last cycle. With that said, Griffin Willis does return, who played 643 snaps. The problem was he wasn't exactly the best player last year. Slightly below average in run D, but he did have 15 pressures. And he has a bit more experience year over year than kind of anyone on this defensive line. So I think he's probably your stalwart. Use him inside. He's one of just a couple players we have projected above average in this unit. But if he's injured or you need to just rotate extra players in, the depth gets thin pretty quickly. Xavier Arrington has 146 snaps last year, at least over 200 in his career, but he's been below average for 2 straight years. Okay in run defense, but no pass rushing. He's a 280-pound defensive lineman. He's 6 feet tall. And that's also a little bit of a problem with Willis. He's 273, also 6'1", not very tall. You just don't have a lot of bulk in the trenches. Matt Reyes, 284, Chris Herrock, those are the players that are going to fill out this defensive line. In general, the inexperience, I think, is a problem, especially when you double that with, like most years, Navy's not very big in the trenches. You see this, it's a problem against the better teams they face. Notre Dame, that should come as no surprise, but we've seen it in multiple games and teams that can run on Navy. Luckily for them, the American, there will be teams that just can't exploit it. Now, linebacker. This unit is far stronger. Coleman Colley's back. He was 3rd on the team in tackles, and he was actually good in coverage, too. 6'1", 233, 129 scoreless yards with 2 picks. He's going to lead this position. 517 snaps last year, and that was actually fewer than Mark Anthony Parker, who played 662, but he led the team with 97 tackles. The reason his grade was a bit lower is he got absolutely crushed in coverage. 32 catches allowed. That was an 82% completion percentage for 313 yards, 1 touchdown. He did have 1 interception. So the versatility with Coleman Colley gives him the edge over Mark Anthony Parker. I'm not real worried. These two should be one of the better linebacking duos in the conference. And you also have experience. Job Grant played 319 snaps last year. Marcus Blizzard played over 100 snaps last year. If you do get into a situation with injury, this unit hopefully can at least weather that storm. And having this unit behind a defensive line with concerns, I think makes it a little more enticing. They're 2nd in the American in the linebacker room. Now, when you get to DB, Navy was 120th last year. They lose Justin Ross to Virginia. Jackson Campbell graduated, but there's a lot back here. Ira Oniha, he's been injured a lot through his career, including last year, but he's been excellent when on the field. His completion percentage is just 53%. He should be probably your top defender, especially in the secondary. He might be the top defender overall. The second corner spot's up for grabs. Nick Bell started the final 3 games. Now, it was slightly below average, but that was a bit better than really anyone else they had. You can go down the list at corner. Like Cam Robinson played 132 snaps. Bryce Allen played 194. Maxwell Williams played 57. Seth English played 194. We have him listed as the starting nickel. But as you can see, there was a lot of change in the secondary throughout the season, some due to injury, some due to poor play. Like going through that list, Robinson was pretty good in the bowl game when we saw him. That's Cam Robinson. Bryce Allen, he was pretty bad when we saw him. Seth English was also below average. So I think they'll probably decide this in fall camp. These are just the favorites right now if you have to pick them, which leads to some big questions. These players weren't very good last year, and 2 of them are going to have to start. So what does that mean? Now, safety should be a lot easier to project. Giuseppe Sessi is back. He was second on the team in tackles last year. Very good in coverage. 304 scoreless yards, kind of like a bend, don't break type player. No ball production is the only real concern. He had no PBUs, no interceptions. Philip Hamilton will play the other safety position, 6th on the team in tackles. A little bit weaker in coverage, but overall, these are 2 returning starters that shouldn't give you many problems. Kushi Abraham, Matthew Saliga are back for depth pieces. We currently have them ranked 5th in the American, just overall secondaries, which is a pretty big step forward for Navy. But let's look at the roster as a whole. We have Navy power ranked 78th, which is a bit behind where they were last year. Their win total is 7.5, juice towards the over. With the 160 juice, you're looking at an effective 8 win total. And the position groups you're most confident in, certainly offensive line and back 7. That's a pretty good foundation for Navy. My main concern is the defensive line. I'm not concerned with running back or receiver. One, because running back's not very important. Their ceiling is determined based on the offensive line, and they don't use receivers. Quarterback Braxton Woodson has been fine. So overall, I think the roster is decent for Navy. My real hiccup has nothing to do with the players. It's the schedule. You look at this schedule, you have the Army-Navy game. We just have it listed as a dash here. Don't ask. It's a formatting thing. Instead of adding a week 14 at the very end, just throw it in the beginning. But that game's always hard. Last year, it was played to 1 point. We know every single year Army-Navy is going to be a dogfight. So call that a 50-50 game. Where are your layups? You've got Towson, but you give that right back with Notre Dame. So the rest of your games are near coin flips. But let's go through this. Florida Atlantic on the road. That's one of the better teams in the American. UAB, okay, you should win that. Unfortunately, it's on the road, but it's off a bye. Air Force is a lot better this season. Now, I still think Navy wins that game, but rather than win it by, let's say, like 10 points, our spread is 1. We'll get to Air Force later. This is a team that's very improved year over year. Tulsa's improved. UTSA is one of the best teams in the conference. North Texas maybe takes a step back, but still quality team. You have Memphis down the stretch. This is a hard schedule for Navy. That's why we have the win total at 6.67. Now, you go through this. Do I think Navy is going to lose 5 games? I don't feel real confident in this. And part of the reason, they're volatile year over year. It's hard to project their talent level because they're all 2 stars, 0 stars. But Navy is a team we're selling. This win total is on the fingertips for me towards the under. It's probably one we're going to play. Just want to finish out a few extra teams in the American and make sure there's nothing crazy we're missing before hitting an under on Navy.